I stared at the empty driveway, my pulse hammering against my temples like a war drum. The rental van was gone. Again. My phone buzzed with Mom's text. "Sorry, honey, thought you were already in the car." The same lie from 3 years ago when they abandoned me for Cabo. The identical excuse from last summer's Europe trip where I spent 2 weeks eating ramen while they posted champagne photos from Paris. But this time, I remembered everything. This time, I was reborn with the knowledge of exactly how this story ended in my first life. The metallic taste of betrayal flooded my mouth as I recalled dying alone in this same house 5 years from now. No family at my bedside during my final cancer battle. No one to miss me at the funeral they wouldn't even attend because they'd be in Bali, having forgotten about my death just like they forgot about me in life. The hospice nurse would be the only one holding my hand as I slipped away, wondering why no one came. Not this time. My fingers trembled as I opened my laptop, the familiar weight of abandonment crushing my chest. But alongside the pain came something else. A cold, crystalline fury that burned like liquid nitrogen in my veins. The Chen family trust account glowed on my screen, the inheritance from Grandma that my parents swore didn't exist. But I remembered now, the passwords, the account numbers, the $27 million they'd hidden while convincing me I was too irresponsible for real money. The password was my birthday, the one they forgot every year. How perfectly ironic. I transferred everything to my personal account, each digit a nail in their coffin of lies. The numbers were staggering, not just the principal, but years of accumulated interest and investment returns. Grandma Chen had been a brilliant investor, and her money had been quietly growing while my parents spent what they thought was just the interest on their lifestyle upgrades. The irony tasted like blood and champagne mixed together. Mom's voice echoed from my first life. "Mia's too impractical for serious wealth. We're protecting her future." They'd protected it straight into their own vacation fund while leaving me behind every single time, making me feel like the family charity case who should be grateful for their scraps. My phone rang, the sound sharp and invasive in the silence of our empty suburban house. Dad's contact photo smiled up at me. All of us at last Christmas. The final family photo before I learned the devastating truth about their version of love. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Mia, sweetheart." His voice dripped with theatrical concern, the same tone he'd used when explaining why there was no room for me in the car to Grandma's funeral. "We feel absolutely terrible about this mix-up. Your mother's already crying at the airport gate, and Sarah's asking where you are. Don't turn around." The words shocked me with their steadiness, flowing from a confidence I'd never possessed in my first life. "I'm perfectly fine." "But honey, you can't spend spring break alone again. This is the third time, and we promised—" His voice cracked with what might have been genuine guilt if I didn't know better. "We'll change our flights right now and come get you. The vacation can wait." I almost laughed at the transparent performance. The vacation could wait? When had my presence ever been worth disrupting their plans? I said, "I'm fine, Dad. Enjoy the Bahamas. I know how much you need the relaxation after all that stress from Sarah's art show." A pause crackled through the phone line, filled with confusion and dawning suspicion. "How did you know we were going to the Bahamas? We never told you our destination." "Because you went there in my first life too," I thought, savoring the moment of his confusion. "Because your patterns are pathetically predictable. Because you've been stealing my inheritance money to fund these trips for years while I ate ramen and wondered why I was never enough." Lucky guess. Sarah posts everything anyway, and she was researching Atlantis Resort last week. That's very observant of you." Dad's voice had shifted, become wary. "Well, we'll bring you back something nice from the gift shop." A gift shop souvenir, the same pathetic gesture they'd made every time. A $5 keychain to make up for a $5,000 vacation I'd funded but wasn't invited to join. I hung up before he could continue the charade and immediately dialed the number I'd memorized from my grandmother's old contacts. Platinum Escapes, the private jet service that my parents had buried along with everything else Grandma Chen had left me. "Miss Chen!" The voice brightened with genuine warmth and recognition. "We haven't heard from you in years. How wonderful to hear your voice again. I'm so sorry for your loss, by the way. Your grandmother was an incredible woman." "Thank you. She was—" My throat tightened unexpectedly. I need a flight to Saint-Tropez. Tonight. Of course, absolutely. Shall we arrange the usual accommodations as well? The Monaco penthouse is available, and I believe your grandmother's account still covers the full concierge service. Usual accommodations I'd never made, but somehow remembered from dreams of a life I should have lived. Yes, please. And I'll need the helicopter transfer from Nice as well. Wonderful. Departure in 2 hours from the private terminal. Is there anything else we can arrange? Dinner reservations? Shopping appointments? Yacht charter, perhaps? The casual mention of services worth more than most people's annual salaries sent a thrill through me. This was my real life. This was who I'd always been meant to be. Actually, yes, I want everything. The full experience. I'm celebrating my independence. Excellent. I'll have our Monaco concierge prepare a complete itinerary. You're going to love what we have planned. As I packed my single designer suitcase, a graduation gift from Grandma that Mom had tried to return as too extravagant, my phone exploded with notifications. Sarah's Instagram story played like a tragic comedy across my screen. Airport delays, Dad stress-eating overpriced airport sandwiches, Mom looking increasingly harassed as their budget airline announced another mechanical issue. Family vacation attempt number 2. Sarah had captioned it with crying laughing emojis and a selfie that couldn't hide the growing tension in her eyes. Third time's the charm, right? #family first #blessed life #never dull moment. The comments were already pouring in from their social circle. Where's Mia? Asked several family friends. Sarah's response was swift. She had other plans. Sometimes you just need sister time with the parents, you know? Other plans. As if I'd chosen to be left behind. As if this was my decision. They had no idea what was coming. No clue that their world was about to implode in the most spectacular way possible. I opened my camera app and photographed my Louis Vuitton suitcase against our marble entryway. The contrast between luxury and their middle-class pretensions suddenly stark and revealing. The late afternoon light streamed through our front windows, illuminating the expensive bag like a spotlight on stage. The caption wrote itself with surgical precision. When your family forgets you exist, you remember who you really are. #trust fund baby #. Blessed by grandma #self-care #. Living my best life. My finger hovered over the post button for exactly 3 seconds. In my first life, I'd been too afraid of their anger, too desperate for scraps of their conditional approval, too willing to make myself small so they could feel bigger. I pressed share and watched my phone immediately explode with reactions. The notifications came in waves. College friends I hadn't heard from in months suddenly very interested in my travel plans. Extended family members who'd always treated me like the awkward afterthought now sliding into my DMs. And most tellingly, radio silence from my immediate family's group chat. They were panicking. The Gulfstream G650 gleamed under the private terminal's soft lighting like a silver promise made manifest. I'd flown commercial in my first life, always crammed into economy seats while Sarah got business class upgrades because she gets motion sick. This felt like ascending directly to heaven, bypassing every earthly concern. Welcome aboard, Miss Chen. The flight attendant's smile was professionally warm but held genuine pleasure. It's wonderful to have you flying with us again. Shall I start with your grandmother's favorite champagne? We still stock the Dom Perignon 2008 specifically for the Chen account. That sounds perfect. The words flowed naturally from Grandma's confidence, now coursing through my veins like liquid starlight. I settled into leather that probably cost more than my parents' mortgage payment and felt for the first time in either lifetime like I was exactly where I belonged. The cabin was a study in understated luxury, cream leather seats that reclined into full beds, a fully stocked bar, and windows large enough to showcase the world falling away beneath us. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the champagne flute against the backdrop of clouds, adding the caption, "Sometimes the best company is your own." As we climbed through cloud cover that looked like scattered diamonds against velvet sky, I checked the family group chat that had been ominously silent since my Instagram post went live. The notifications were multiplying like angry wasps, but I'd been removed from the main chat. Apparently, my access had been revoked, but I still had the individual chats and they were chaotic. Sarah, guys, look at Mia's Instagram right now. Mom, where did she get the money for that bag? That's a $5,000 Louis Vuitton suitcase. Dad, call her immediately. Something's wrong. Aunt Linda, that's my mother's jet service. How does Mia know about platinum escapes? Cousin Rachel, holy shit, she actually did it. She found the trust fund. Uncle David chimed in. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they realize what this means. Followed by Aunt Sarah. Good. Maybe they'll finally understand what they've been doing to that girl. The extended family was choosing sides, and early indicators suggested I was winning in a landslide. I turned off my phone and ordered another champagne, savoring the moment like aged wine. The Monaco penthouse existed in a realm beyond my wildest first life dreams. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Mediterranean in all its blue-green glory, while an infinity pool seemed to pour directly into the horizon. Fresh orchids perfumed rooms that cost more per night than most people's annual salaries, and every surface gleamed with the kind of understated luxury that whispered rather than shouted its worth. The concierge, Philippe, greeted me personally with a champagne welcome and a detailed itinerary. We've arranged dinner at Alain Ducasse tonight, followed by a sunset yacht cruise tomorrow. The shopping appointments are confirmed for Thursday morning. Hermès, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton have all prepared private selections for you. I photographed everything with the methodical precision of a war correspondent documenting victory. Sunset from my private terrace, Cristal chilling poolside while I lounged in designer resort wear. My reflection in gold-framed Venetian mirrors wearing dresses I'd bought in the hotel boutique without checking a single price tag. Each photo was a carefully crafted middle finger, elegant and devastating. The room service menu read like poetry written in euros and dollars. I ordered everything that sounded decadent. Osetra caviar, lobster thermidor, a bottle of Chateau de Cayme, older than my parents' marriage. The cost for one meal exceeded their entire vacation budget, and the irony was absolutely delicious. As I dined alone on my terrace, Monaco's lights twinkling like earthbound stars, I composed my evening Instagram post. A photo of my dinner spread with the harbor view behind it, captioned, "Dining solo but never lonely. Sometimes the best conversations are the ones you have with yourself. #Monaco nights, #self-love, #living fully." The comments exploded within minutes. College acquaintances calling me inspirational. High school friends asking what my secret was. And most satisfying of all, silence from my immediate family. 47 missed calls decorated my phone when I finally checked it again, along with increasingly frantic text messages that shifted from confusion to anger to something approaching panic. I answered Sarah's FaceTime call during what I knew would be their sad hotel dinner in Nassau. The budget resort they'd chosen looked even worse through her cracked phone screen plastic chairs, fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sickly, and a buffet that practically screamed food poisoning. Mia, what the actual hell is happening? Sarah's voice cracked between fury and disbelief, her usually perfect composure completely shattered. Where are you getting this money? That champagne in your story cost more than my car payment. I adjusted my phone carefully to showcase Monaco's glittering skyline behind me, yacht lights twinkling like earthbound stars in the harbor. From Grandma Chen. You remember her, right? The woman who actually loved me unconditionally? That's impossible. Mom always said there was no inheritance, that Grandma left everything to charity. Sarah's face had gone chalk white, realization dawning like a cold sunrise. She wouldn't lie about something like that. Mom lied about a lot of things. I sipped champagne deliberately, letting the crystal catch the ambient lighting of my terrace. They've been accessing my trust fund for years, using my money to fund family vacations that somehow never included me. Sarah's face crumpled as the full implications hit her. Behind her, I could see Mom approaching, drawn by Sarah's increasingly loud voice. The family matriarch looked haggard, her usually perfect hair showing gray roots and her makeup smeared by stress and humidity. Is that Mia? Mom's voice rose to near hysteria. Where is she? What's she done? She's in Monaco, Sarah whispered, still staring at my backdrop of impossible luxury. She's rich, Mom. Like, actually rich. That's impossible. We would have known. You did know. I spoke directly to Mom now, my voice carrying clearly across their sad little hotel room. You've been stealing from me for years. Every family vacation, every emergency expense, every time Sarah needed money for her art supplies, it all came from my trust fund while you convinced me I was too irresponsible to know about it. Mom's face went through a rapid series of expressions: shock, guilt, anger, and finally, cold calculation. You don't understand, sweetheart. We were protecting you from making impulsive decisions with that kind of money. Young people can't handle. Young people like you and Dad when you were my age? I interrupted, savoring her flinch. When you eloped to Vegas with Grandma's emergency money? That kind of impulsive decision? The silence on their end was deafening. I'd struck bone with surgical precision. We can discuss this when you get home. Dad's voice boomed from somewhere off camera, carrying his usual assumption of authority. Book a flight tonight, Mia. This foolishness ends now. No. The word tasted like freedom mixed with champagne and starlight. I'm staying in Europe for the rest of spring break, maybe longer, maybe permanently. You're being ridiculous, Mom snapped, her mask of concern finally slipping. You can't just run away because your feelings are hurt. We're a family. Families don't abandon each other, I replied calmly. They don't steal money. And they certainly don't lie for years about inheritance funds. I raised my champagne glass in a mock toast, but thank you for teaching me that blood doesn't make family. Choice does. I hung up as Sarah started screaming questions at the phone, leaving them to stew in their own panic and guilt. The notification that I'd been removed from the family group chat popped up within minutes, followed immediately by individual texts from various relatives as word spread through our extended family network like wildfire. The Chen family WhatsApp was apparently in complete meltdown. Cousin Rachel, holy shit, you actually found it. Grandma always said you were the smart one. Aunt Linda, your father is losing his mind. Mom would be so proud. Uncle David, about damn time. Welcome to the family business, kiddo. Great Aunt Margaret, I've been waiting 20 years for someone to put your parents in their place. The extended family was rallying around me with surprising enthusiasm. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed my parents' questionable financial ethics over the years. I'd won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. The next 3 days passed in a blur of experiences I'd only dreamed about in my first life. Private shopping appointments where sales associates addressed me by name and brought champagne while I tried on clothes worth more than cars. A helicopter tour of the French Riviera that made me feel like a character in a James Bond film. Dinner at Michelin-starred restaurants where the sommelier knew my wine preferences better than I did thanks to detailed notes in Grandma's account. Each experience was carefully documented and shared, building a narrative of luxury and independence that stood in stark contrast to their budget vacation disaster. I wasn't just living well, I was creating content designed to showcase exactly what they'd lost by underestimating me. The shopping spree at Hermes was particularly satisfying. The sales associate, Mary Claire, treated me like visiting royalty, bringing out pieces that weren't even displayed to the public. Your grandmother was one of our most valued clients, she explained as I tried on a jacket that cost more than a car. She had exquisite taste. I can see it runs in the family. I bought everything that caught my eye. Handbags, scarves, jewelry. A small fortune in designer goods that I could afford without even checking my account balance. Each purchase was a small act of rebellion against years of being told I was too irresponsible for nice things. Meanwhile, their vacation was imploding with almost biblical catastrophe. Sarah's posts grew increasingly desperate as their budget hotel revealed its true nature: broken air conditioning during a heat wave, food poisoning from the sketchy buffet, and a room flooding that forced them to share a single bed with mysterious stains. The contrast was so stark it felt like the universe had a sense of humor. Lost luggage day 3, Sarah posted with a forced cheer, wearing the same wrinkled outfit she'd been in for days. At least we have each other. #family first, #making memories, #travel struggles. The comments were brutal. Friends asking if they needed help, relatives suggesting they cut the trip short, and pointed questions about why they'd chosen such a cheap hotel when the Chen family was known for their wealth. My blocked call log showed 63 attempted contacts by day 4. They were calling mutual friends, distant relatives, my old college roommates, anyone who might have my new contact information or could pressure me to come home. I unblocked them just long enough to send one perfectly crafted group text. Having the most amazing time. Thanks for teaching me that I'm better off alone. Sometimes the best family vacations are the ones you take by yourself. Ash blessed hash, living my truth. I attached a photo of myself on the yacht, champagne in hand, Monaco's coastline sparkling behind me. The response was immediate chaos that I could practically taste through the phone. Mom, please come home, we'll talk about everything. Dad, you're being selfish and ungrateful to your family. Sarah, this isn't you, Mia. What's gotten into you? You're scaring us. This isn't me. The phrase stung because it was absolutely true. The old Mia would have apologized profusely, begged their forgiveness, and crawled back home grateful for whatever scraps of attention they threw her way. But the old Mia had died alone and forgotten in a house bought with stolen money. This Mia had been reborn with a titanium spine and zero tolerance for manipulation. I flew to New York next, booking the penthouse suite at the Gramercy Park Hotel, because Sarah had always called Manhattan too sophisticated for boring little Mia during her art school phase. The irony was absolutely delicious as I settled into accommodations that probably cost more per night than their entire disastrous vacation. The suite was a masterpiece of urban luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the private park, a marble bathroom larger than most apartments, and a living room that could host a small party. I ordered room service from Jean-Georges and photographed my lunch spread truffle pasta, aged Wagyu beef, and a bottle of wine that cost more than their hotel room. Central Park in spring was everything the movies had promised and more. I rode in horse-drawn carriages like a character from a fairy tale, had afternoon tea at the plaza surrounded by society women who accepted me immediately once they learned my last name, and shopped at Bergdorf Goodman where personal stylists treated me like visiting royalty. Every moment was deliberately contrasted against memories of their cramped family trips where I'd shared hotel beds with Sarah and eaten at chain restaurants while they complained about the cost of everything. The transformation from scarcity to abundance was intoxicating. My Instagram following had tripled overnight, comments pouring in from strangers calling me inspirational, goals, the ultimate rebirth story. College acquaintances who'd barely acknowledged my existence were suddenly my biggest fans, sliding into my DMs with invitations to exclusive events and offers of friendship that smelled suspiciously like opportunism. But it was the message from my extended family that made me smile widest. Cousin Rachel, Aunt Linda wants to know if you're accepting visitors. We always knew you were Grandma's favorite, but this is next level. The family WhatsApp is absolutely losing its mind. She included screenshots of the family chat, which had devolved into complete chaos. Relatives taking sides, my parents desperately trying to control the narrative, and increasing pressure for them to explain exactly how they'd managed to misplace a $27 million inheritance. The Chen family empire was choosing sides, and I was winning in a landslide. Day 7 brought the ambush I'd been half expecting. I was browsing the jewelry collection at Tiffany on Fifth Avenue when I spotted them through the storefront window. Mom, Dad, and Sarah, looking travel-worn and desperate, scanning the crowds like bounty hunters tracking their prey. They'd abandoned their vacation disaster to hunt me down on my territory. My heart hammered against my ribs as I slipped out the back entrance and into a waiting taxi, adrenaline singing through my veins like champagne mixed with lightning. This was it. The final confrontation I'd been orchestrating since that first moment of abandonment. Instead of running to a safe distance, I made a choice that would have terrified the old Mia. I texted our family group chat. Dinner tonight, the Rainbow Room, 8 p.m. Come alone if you actually want to talk instead of ambush me on street corners. The Rainbow Room was strategically perfect public enough to prevent dramatic scenes, expensive enough to showcase exactly what they'd lost by underestimating me, and iconic enough to make this confrontation memorable for all the right reasons. I arrived 30 minutes early, wearing a black silk dress that cost more than their entire vacation and jewelry that caught the restaurant's ambient lighting like captured starlight. The maitre d' recognized me immediately, ushering me to the best table with a view of the city sparkling below us like a promise. I ordered their most expensive champagne and waited, savoring the anticipation like fine wine. They arrived looking smaller somehow, diminished by travel stress, and the growing realization that they'd catastrophically misjudged the situation. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed from crying. Dad's usual bluster deflated into something approaching humility, and Sarah kept staring at my jewelry with a mixture of awe and resentment. You look, Mom started, then stopped, seemingly unable to find words. Different, Dad finished weakly. You look completely different. I was different. Confident where I'd been insecure, unburdened where I'd been weighed down by their expectations. Reborn where I'd been slowly dying from their neglect. Turns out being repeatedly abandoned has some interesting side effects. We never meant to hurt you, Mom whispered, her voice breaking slightly. The car was so crowded with luggage, and we thought you were right behind us. You thought I didn't matter enough to double-check. I kept my voice surgical in its precision, each word carefully chosen for maximum impact. You thought I'd always be waiting at home when you returned, grateful for whatever attention you could spare. Sarah leaned forward desperately, her usual confidence completely shattered. We're sorry, okay? We screwed up massively, and we know it, but this... She gestured at the restaurant, my clothes, the bottle of Dom Perignon I'd ordered while waiting. This isn't solving anything. This is just revenge. You're absolutely right, I agreed with a smile that could have cut diamond. It is revenge, and it's solving everything by showing me exactly who I am when I'm not begging for your approval. Dad's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. That money belongs to the family. Your grandmother would have wanted it used responsibly, not wasted on this tantrum. Grandma left it specifically to me. Not you, not the family, not anyone else. Me. I pulled out my phone with deliberate slowness, showing them the legal documents my newly hired attorney had prepared. Every penny you've stolen over the past 5 years, I'm officially calling it theft. The blood drained from Dad's face as he stared at the papers, recognition dawning in his eyes. You can't be serious about this, Mia. We're family. Deadly serious. I savored their panic like fine wine. My lawyer estimates approximately $400,000 in unauthorized access over the years. Hotels, flights, restaurants, Sarah's art supplies, even Dad's golf club membership, all charged to my accounts while I survived on ramen noodles and student loans. Mom's tears were flowing freely now, mascara creating dark tracks down her cheeks. We were going to pay it back eventually, sweetheart. Once your father's business picked up, once Sarah established her career. When exactly? I asked with genuine curiosity. After the next family vacation I'm not invited to? After the next emergency expense that somehow requires my money but not my presence? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I sipped my champagne and watched them squirm, enjoying every second of their discomfort. I'm prepared to forget about the theft, I finally said, watching hope bloom in their eyes. Under one very simple condition. They leaned forward like drowning people grasping for life preservers, desperate for any chance at redemption. Leave me alone, permanently. The words landed like bombs in the elegant space between us. No more calls, texts, or guilt trips. No more family gatherings where I'm treated like an afterthought. I'll attend weddings and funerals because I'm not completely heartless, but that's the extent of our relationship going forward. You can't possibly mean that, Sarah breathed, her voice barely audible. We're family. Family doesn't just disappear. Family doesn't abandon each other at airports either. Family doesn't steal inheritance money. And family certainly doesn't make someone feel invisible for their entire existence. I stood gracefully, my dinner completely untouched. But don't worry about missing me. You never have before. Dad shot to his feet, his face purple with rage and wounded pride. If you walk away from this table, don't expect us to welcome you back when you come to your senses. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I almost laughed at the beautifully twisted logic. You never welcomed me in the first place. That's exactly the problem. I left them sitting there, surrounded by the wreckage of their assumptions and the expensive debris of their shattered expectations. In the elevator down, my reflection glowed in the polished metal doors like a woman reborn from fire. 3 months later, I bought the island. It was perfect. 15 acres of pristine paradise off the coast of Turks and Caicos, completely private and entirely mine. The real estate agent, accustomed to dealing with billionaires, didn't even blink when I paid cash. Chen's Retreat, I told her when she asked about the name. After my grandmother, who believed I deserved more than scraps. The house was modest by billionaire standards, but absolutely perfect for my needs. Panoramic windows showcasing ocean views that belonged in magazines, an infinity pool that seemed to pour directly into the Caribbean Sea, and most importantly, a private helipad that ensured no uninvited visitors could reach my sanctuary. The first month was spent furnishing my new home with the help of an interior designer who understood my vision. Elegant but comfortable, luxurious but not ostentatious. Every piece was chosen for beauty and function, creating spaces where I could finally breathe without the weight of other people's expectations. My social media had evolved from revenge posts to genuine joy and authentic happiness. Sunrise yoga sessions on beaches so pristine they looked computer generated. Dinner parties with fascinating people who valued my company and sought my opinions. Business ventures that excited rather than drained me. Investments that grew my wealth while supporting causes I actually cared about. The old me would have felt crushing guilt about the complete silence from my family. The new me felt nothing but sweet relief and hard-won peace. Until Mom's email arrived on a Tuesday morning, 6 months after our last contact. Mia, sweetheart, I hope you're well and happy wherever you are. Sarah's getting married next month. A small ceremony because of budget constraints, but she specifically asked me to reach out to you. She wants you there. We all do. Can we please talk? I know we made terrible mistakes, but family is family, and some things are more important than pride. Your father's been diagnosed with diabetes, and he's genuinely scared about the future. We need you, Mia. We've always needed you. We just never knew how to show it properly. I read the email twice, waiting for the familiar tug of guilt and obligation that had controlled me for so many years. The emotional manipulation was masterful. Sarah's wedding, Dad's health scare, the careful implication that I was being petty and cruel. Nothing came except a profound sadness for people who still didn't understand the difference between needing someone and loving them. I crafted my response with the same careful precision I'd learned to apply to everything else in my new life. Dear Mom, congratulations to Sarah on her engagement. I genuinely hope she finds the happiness and partnership she deserves. As for the rest of your message, I want you to understand that some bridges, once burned by years of neglect and betrayal, simply cannot be rebuilt with words. You taught me that family is a choice, not an obligation, and that love must be demonstrated through actions rather than claimed through DNA. I've chosen to build my family from people who actually want me in their lives, who value my presence rather than tolerate it, and who would never dream of leaving me behind. I wish you all well, but my decision is final. Please don't contact me again. I hit send and immediately deleted the email thread, then blocked their email addresses for good measure. No more chances for manipulation or guilt trips. No more opportunities for them to make me feel small. Then I walked out to my terrace where the Caribbean sun was transforming the ocean into liquid gold, and I felt nothing but gratitude for the path that had led me here. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, the marine biologist I'd been dating for 3 months. Discovered an incredible coral reef this morning. Want to explore it together this afternoon? I'll bring the champagne. This was my family now. People who chose to include me in their adventures, who valued my presence and sought my company, who would never dream of leaving me behind because I mattered to them in ways my biological family had never understood. I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely, I'll bring the underwater camera. This sounds like the perfect way to spend the day." As I prepared for another perfect afternoon in my perfect life, I thought about the girl who used to sit alone in empty houses, waiting for people who would never choose her. She felt like a stranger now, someone from a different lifetime who'd accepted crumbs because she didn't know she deserved the whole feast. Because in a very real sense, she was exactly that, a ghost from a life I'd left behind when I learned my true worth. This was my second chance, and I wasn't wasting a single precious moment of it on people who had never deserved my love in the first place. The island's gentle waves continued their eternal rhythm against pristine white sand shores, a constant reminder that storms inevitably pass, leaving behind clear skies and calm seas. I'd weathered the worst that family dysfunction could inflict and had found something infinitely better on the other side, complete and total self-acceptance. 2 years later, I hosted my first annual Chen's Retreat charity gala on the island. Marine conservation, something close to Marcus's heart and increasingly important to mine as well. The guest list sparkled with celebrities, renowned scientists, influential philanthropists, and genuine friends. People who knew my name, respected my work, and valued my presence in their lives. The event was covered by Architectural Digest and Vanity Fair, establishing Chen's Retreat as a destination for meaningful luxury. The photos were stunning. Guests dining under stars on my private beach, meaningful conversations about ocean conservation, and me at the center of it all, confident and radiant. Sarah's wedding announcement had arrived that same morning, forwarded by a well-meaning cousin. A small ceremony in Dad's backyard, budget constraints forcing the kind of intimate gathering they'd never chosen before. The photo showed a modest cake, grocery store flowers, and her dress from a discount retail chain. I felt nothing but mild curiosity, like reading about strangers in a newspaper obituary section. Marcus found me on the terrace as sunset painted the sky in watercolors that belonged in art galleries. Penny for your thoughts, beautiful. Just thinking about parallel lives, I said, accepting the champagne he offered with fingers that no longer trembled with uncertainty. The version of me that kept waiting for them to choose me, that died waiting for love that would never come. And now? He asked, his arm sliding around my waist with the easy intimacy of someone who truly knew me. I gestured at our guests mingling below us on the beach, their laughter carrying on warm ocean breezes like music. Now I know the difference between being wanted and being needed, between love and convenience, between family and people who happen to share your genetic code. He kissed my temple with the gentle reverence of someone who understood exactly how precious this peace had been to achieve. Any regrets about the path that brought you here? I thought about the girl who used to stare at empty driveways, making excuses for people who never deserved her loyalty, who died alone because she never learned that her worth wasn't determined by other people's ability to see it. None, I said with absolute certainty, not a single one. The waves continued their eternal dance against our shores, washing away temporary footprints but leaving the beach itself unchanged, enduring and beautiful. Just like me. In this life, I would never be left behind again. Because I had finally learned the most important lesson of all, the only person who could never abandon me was myself. And I was more than enough.